In this lesson, we are talking about solving systems using augmented matrices. An augmented matrix is a matrix containing the coefficient matrix in the matrix of constants for a system of linear equations. It is called the augmented matrix of the system.
In linear systems, an augmented matrix, the way you set it up is by looking at the coefficient in each place and plugging it in the exact same order in the matrix. So 1, -2, 7, and then -3, 5, -4. So the first step to simplifying these together is to add 3 times the first equation to the second equation, and you will then end up with -y equals 17, because you did 3x, and then 3 times -2y is -6y equals 21. From there, when you add that to -3x plus 5y equals -4, you will end up with -y equals 17. You will then plug that back in over here to the augmented matrix, keeping the coefficients in the same placement. After that, you'll multiply the second equation by -1 to make y positive and not negative. You will end up with y equals -17 and replace that in your matrix. After that, the second row of matrix tells you that y equals -17. You will substitute -17 for y. In the equation for the first row, x equals 2 times -17 equals 7, or x equals -27. The solution is -27, which is what we got for x, and -17, which is what we found for y.
In this lesson, we are talking about adding and subtracting matrices.
To add and subtract matrices, you simply add or subtract the corresponding parts. So this can only happen if the matrices that you are adding or subtracting have the same amount of columns or rows. So for instance, in this example, they have the same amount of columns and rows, so you add across. 3 plus 1 is 4, -4 plus 0 is -4, and 7 plus 3 is 10. In this example, you cannot do it because there's a different amount of columns and rows. In this lesson, you will be learning about multiplying matrices.
You multiply each entry in a matrix by the scalar. A scalar is a real number. Multiplying can be used when the number of columns in A is equal to the number of rows in B.
So for example, when you're multiplying matrices or multiplying by a scalar, you multiply the scalar by each individual place. So 3 times -2 is -6, 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 times -7 is -21. And when you're multiplying matrices, it's a little bit more difficult. You do -2 times -1 and plug that in right there. Then you do +3 times -2, and you put that there. You then continue to do the same thing, 1 with -4 to -1 and -2, and you continue doing that all the way down. And then after that, you'll do -2 and 3, but times these numbers over here, and you'll add that up over here. In the end, you add it all together, and you will have -4, 6, 7, -13, and -6, 18. In today's lesson, we will be learning about matrices.
A matrix is a rectangular arrangement of numbers in rows and columns. An entry is the numbers inside of a matrix. This is an example of a matrix. There are 3 columns and 2 rows. There are different types of matrices. There's a row matrix, which is 1 row. There's a column matrix, that is 1 column. There's a square matrix that is the same number of rows and columns. There's a zero matrix where all the entries are zeros. The 2 matrices are equal if their dimensions and entries are equal, and corresponding positions are the same.